Hello, everyone. You all look so good from here. When you're just making that introduction, I was like, who's that? Because it's been a long time coming. And I'm just so grateful that you took your time to be here, to join us. And this is my very first big audience. So thank you so much for honoring me with your time. I'll start now. So my grandmother, Amuhuma, is a strong, sweet, very hardworking, but also very opinionated 81-year-old woman. I mean, she can throw you shade over shade over shade and add a cherry on top with extra shade. That is who she is. And to be honest, here in Africa, we all know that when you grow old, you get some extra special rights. You get away with so much. And deep inside, when I grow older, I hope to one day be just like my grandmother. She's a rock star by her own right. And now I understand why my own mom, who's here, hi mom, I now understand why she's so excited to retire. She'll be retiring this year because she too gets to enjoy the life of an African rock star in an old age. But sometime last year, my grandmother threw me shade, like some serious shade, but I let her get away with it. Reason being, she literally exposed a level of ignorance in me, and at the same time covered me with love, so that it just doesn't leave me in a mess. I made a grave mistake. And this grave mistake was that during our monthly phone calls, because I just love people, and I love calling her and just finding out how is she doing. And this time round, I made a grave mistake of introducing myself by the name Michelle over the phone. It may seem little, but to my grandmother, she was not having it. Like, she was not having it. And in response, she responded with rebuke, and she said, Michelle is not your name. Ayuma is. Ayuma is your name. It is also my mother's name, your grandmother, and it's because of calling you that, I usually call you Mama. In that moment, I felt so ashamed. For the very first time in my life, I was so aware of the fact that I was being so unintentional with how I introduced myself to the world. I did not know that all these years I was sold to the false story, which unfortunately I learned in school, that use the name which is the easiest for your teacher to say, and use a name that is non-political. As soon as I mention my name in school with an "ah," it's already political. And this time round, I'm so grateful that in that moment of shadeness, shade throwing, my grandmother taught me something. And so out of curiosity, I challenged myself to move forward with intention and awareness. Start introducing myself by my cultural name. Because by introducing myself by the name Michelle, I denied my grandmother the pleasure to call me Mama. I denied her the opportunity to connect with me. So I went on, started introducing myself as Ayuma. Some of my friends are still getting used to it, especially from college. And it's interesting because I now realize when somebody calls me Michelle, I know you from college. When you call me from Ayuma, I know you from work, or what I've been doing recently. And it's now been 1.5 years since I intentionally started calling myself Ayuma. And I can tell you 1,000 tales plus of how this has changed my interactions with people and what I have learned in the process. But I'll just start with three. Just three. One, I came to learn the actual meaning of my name. My name, Ayuma, it comes from my culture, my traditional African culture, Kenyan culture, the Abaluya tribe, which used to be a kingdom. And it actually means bead. Beaded, or the beautifier. Without going into this intentional journey about learning my name and introducing myself with this name, I wouldn't have known the meaning. Interesting thing as well is that when I introduced myself to my Nigerian housemate, he actually told me, you know what, the name Ayuma sounds familiar. It sounds like a Yoruba name called Iyum. Guess what it means? Can anyone guess what it means? Exactly. It means bead. So that taught me that we have so much more in common than we are taught. We have so much in common. And when we're intentional about introducing our names and ourselves to the world in ways that births connection, we learn so much more and we have such rich connections with people. 3, and this is the deep one, and I'd love you to go deep with me. So, last year, I attended a family funeral. And as usual, I was one of those relatives who come from the city, you know, with our stories and with our fluff. And then there we are in a family gathering. And it's often, you can always tell the kids from the city from the kids from the village. Even in our interactions, there's always a sense of inauthenticity in how we connect. I mean, there's the kids who have the city names, the kids with the village names. The kids with the city stories, the kids with the village stories. The kids with the city look, the kids with the village look. And even amongst my own cousins, there's usually a great divide. And unfortunately, especially here in Kenya, it takes a family funeral for people to intentionally meet and gather around, which is so sad. But this time round, I chose to do something different. I introduced myself to my own cousins by the name Ayuma. I tell you, I ended up having the richest conversations and interactions with my own cousins after a very long time. In fact, one of my cousins followed me and told me, hey, my name is also Ayuma. And then she went on and told me story after story after story about women in our family, other women in our family that I knew not, who are also called Ayuma, which ones to avoid, which ones are crazy, which ones to only go to their places when they have some good food. You know, it just birthed a beautiful story and beautiful interactions with my own cousins. And another thing is that Ayuma introduced me to a side of her life, which even till today, even her own mother knows not. See, last year, my cousin Ayuma was 18 years old, and she was preparing to sit for the national examinations, which happened at the end of the year. But she lived a reality which, if I hadn't been intentional about connecting with her through our common name, I would just be like a mom, not knowing that this is her reality. So let me paint you a picture of what one day in her life looked like. Ayuma wakes up at 4 a.m. in the morning, goes to the kitchen, which is separate from the main house, lights up a fire, you know, in the traditional stove, which is the 3 stones with firewood. In our culture, we call it a maika. She then boils some water so that people can bathe with it, and also she prepares some breakfast for her family. At 5 a.m., she wakes up her siblings, including her twin brother, who was also sitting for the same exams at the end of the year, wakes up her parents, gets everyone ready. Then at 6 a.m., she makes sure that she gets ready for school, makes sure the house is in order, then she heads for school. And sometimes she runs late. Her brother is never late. He has no house chores. At 5 p.m. the same day, later on in the day, she rushes home directly from school so that she can wash her clothes and that of her family as well. And then she tidies up her siblings, runs to the grocery store, grabs some food, and then starts cooking so that by 7 p.m. or 8 p.m., her family has had their dinner. Somewhere between all that time till 11 p.m., if she's finished everything, which means completing house chores, everyone has eaten, she was washed dishes, everyone has slept, her siblings have stopped running around from all the sugar rush, her mom and dad have sat down, done everything. She now washes all those dishes, and then, if at 11 p.m. she has any time, and if she has any strength, she then does her homework. And if possible, maybe studies. By this time, her brother is exhausted from playing a football game. He's already done his homework. He's gone to school for night prep, back, and he's had dinner that his sister has prepared, and he's gone to bed, ready for the next day. And Ayuma's day begins at 4 a.m. again the next day. Even sharing this gives me some element of grief. Because I remember the exact same jovial Ayuma sharing with me her dream of one day becoming an exceptional Kenyan journalist, just like many of us in our family. But with each day I saw her wake up at 4 a.m., I saw that dream die. And that, my friends, is the danger of the story we tell our African women and girls. That somehow everything else comes first before their own dreams and aspirations. Everyone else's needs, dreams, and aspirations and chores comes first ahead of their own dreams. And the worst thing is that every single day, an African woman dies after long suffering coming second, third, or last in her own life. I'm here today to challenge us. We can do more. Let us do more for our African women. Because guess what? When our women win, Africa wins. And in fact, studies show that 90% of women reinvest back into their communities. Whose communities? Our communities. We are holding ourselves back by holding back our own women and girls. We can do more. We can do more than only 5% of African CEOs being women. We can do more than only 65% women and girls in Kenya not being able to access sanitary towels. We can do more than only 2% of Kenyan women being able to own land. Yet when we start businesses, what do our banks ask us for? Collateral. Number one collateral in Kenya is what? Land. We can do so much more than 1 in 10 Kenyan girls dropping out of school as soon as she starts her monthly period. We can do more than only offering our African women masculine leadership development through passive learning. We need more women taught feminine leadership development, which works through their leadership design. Influence, that's a natural woman's leadership skill. Influence, and through active learning so that they too produce as they learn. Through speaking and through writing, they produce. We can do more, friends. Much, much more. And we don't have to do big things. We can start with good little things. Consistently do them. And we will lift up our African women to the great success that they are. They have it within them. We just need to power them up and allow them to simply be. 2 years ago, my grandmother asked my mom what I do for a living. And in response, my mom responded, she said, kibarua, which in other words means a good little thing. And guess what? On her way back home to the village, my grandmother stuffed a 40-shilling coin, the one in the middle. I love collecting coins. So if you become a new friend and you're not Kenyan, I'll probably ask you for a coin. Let's be friends. So the little one is the 40-shilling coin, which my grandmother stuffed in my hand on her way back to the village. And it's amazing the amount of confidence I got out of that little good thing. Because my then social innovation project, which I had birthed out of my postgraduate studies at the Amani Institute, it is what is now, that was my seed capital, by the way, that 40-shilling coin. It now birthed what is now my social innovation project, rather my social enterprise called LETS. It stands for Leading Through Story, where I am on a mission to awaken confidence in African women leaders globally using their very own stories as a leadership skill. I'm on a mission to break African women leadership barriers using their very own stories. They have it within them. If it wasn't for my grandmother, I wouldn't have found the confidence to share my own story and see that I have it within me to lead other women to do the exact same thing, break barriers starting from confidence. Guys, my grandmother did it. Surely you can. And I'm inviting you right now to join me in just doing 3 little good things for the women in your lives, for African women, an African woman that you know. 1, affirm her dreams actively. 2, confirm a fact that proves she can do it. 3, lift her up to her greatness. Let's say it together. Number 1, affirm. Sorry. Number 2, confirm. Number 3, lift her. Let's say it again. Affirm. 2, confirm. 3, lift her. Thank you so much.